Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in Southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltoalan.com. Again, that's selltoalan.com.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Local Miranda Podcast. Thanks for joining us for another episode. I'm the host, David Samarano, and I'm the host today. And I'm lucky to have somebody here from the community that's brought a new business here that's helping a lot of people. And she's here. I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Bert. I'm a licensed substance abuse counselor. I also do just general mental health counseling. Mm-hmm. And we've opened up 2 small businesses here in Marana. I've got one that's just general mental health counseling, substance abuse counseling, one-on-one individual therapy sessions. And then I also have an intensive outpatient substance abuse treatment center that I've opened up.
Wow. You got a lot going on. Yeah. How's it going? Everything going good?
It's going well so
Good.
far. Yeah,
Good.
It's going well.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
I know that we were just having a conversation out with the team, and somebody that was one of the first customers to the bakery here, their son just took their life.
Oh,
today.
I'm so sorry.
34 years old, my age. So it's like there's just there's a need for it, right? Like it's such an important thing that you're doing. And have you seen an increase of mental health issues from COVID? Has it transpired into something that's
I think so. I definitely do. I think I don't know necessarily that it's more prevalent. I think people are opening up to it a little bit more. They're a little bit more willing to talk about their problems than they used to be.
Yeah.
A lot of times depression, anxiety, those kind of things, if you remember back, decades ago, people would just take pills and it was just, you go lie down and that kind of thing.
Wow,
and
yeah.
Nowadays people are more comfortable going out and talking to somebody, and therapy doesn't have to be something where you're in once a week for years. This is just sometimes you need to work through a little bit of a problem. You need another person to kind of help you sort through things.
Right.
And not everybody has that other person at their house that they can talk to like that.
Right.
So
yeah, the household thing is interesting you bring that up, because I feel like that is just like a no-go, because like I feel like a lot of people don't listen to advice that's inside the house from one another. It's not something that happens often, right? Because it's just like the perspective isn't there, as opposed to like if you can go with somebody outside like you, Stephanie, your perspective and your education and what you have to offer is completely different than someone's husband or their wife, right?
Right, yes, to some extent, but then the people in my household aren't listening to me because they're not looking at me like that, like somebody who has those skills. They're just I'm just mom or somebody in the house. So
yeah,
I think it's what I'm noticing now in the last probably 3 or 4 years is a definite increase in depression and anxiety and just general discomfort. People just don't feel happy. You ask them, where are you? Are you feeling happy? And they're not, and they don't know why.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on in the world. It's not just what's going on in your own backyard. There's so much going on in the world right now. Every time you turn the TV on, every time you turn the radio on, you read the newspaper, you look on the internet, horrible stories of people just doing hideous things to each other.
Yeah.
And it does start to pile on your shoulders after a while, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah. This is opinion mine. I think it's shameful what our media companies do right now and what they focus on, because there is a lot of good that goes on.
Yes, there
on
is.
A daily basis. Tons of it.
Absolutely.
You see it, you do hear about it, but it doesn't meet the front page stuff, right? It doesn't meet to and knowing that we have access to these all the time.
Yep.
Like, right, it's just a constant way of getting information. And unfortunately, when people start clicking on the negative stuff, it starts inundating their feeds with it from the algorithm, like acknowledging, you like seeing people get shot, or you like seeing horrible stuff into your feed. And I think it's like, I think that there's a lot of work to be done in the media space, but and then what you're doing, like it just compiles and compounds, and it's just, this is my opinion. This is from what I'm seeing. So I worked with the youth a lot before I did this. I was a school resource officer at a high school here, and I had to spend my first 2 years teaching etiquette with phones.
Really?
Because it was the biggest problem in caseload that we had. And fortunately, there wasn't a lot of violence or anything but there was kids really misusing this and cyberbullying, and you had kids really depressed and sad from engagements online, whether somebody was posting about them or made them feel really bad, or they were seeing something that was really bad, like pornography was a huge issue we had to deal with. Kids were accessing pornography on the computers from the school, on their phones, doing stuff, exchanging crazy stuff.
Really?
So you had like these youth that were just inundated with all of this negative stuff. And so we had to focus on like, hey, this is what your phone could be used for. Here's the good tools for it, right? Helping you with the research paper, helping you find positive stuff, going somewhere to eat, whatever, where am I going to choose and all that. But anyways, I definitely saw like all of the negativity from this having an effect on the students and causing more counseling visits, depression.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy that like, I don't feel like people acknowledge it enough, that this is an issue.
I agree with you.
I don't think parents do.
wholeheartedly. No, I don't think they do either. I think it's a good way for, as a parent, you've got a teenager, this is a good way to get in contact with them at all times. So in that way, I think they're amazing and they're great. But I think back, I'm glad they didn't have this when I was in high school, because I think about what it was like. Kids post things, and it almost doesn't matter how somebody responds. There's going to be a negative. Somebody could say something cruel. Somebody could say something nice, and then somebody else could say something cruel. And it's like they're opening themselves up to all of this negative feedback that they normally wouldn't have even opened themselves up to. And people feel empowered to say things they wouldn't say if I were sitting in front of you, wouldn't say it to your face, but they feel very, very comfortable with a keyboard. Saying it, and I think it makes kids aware of things they shouldn't have to be aware of at a much younger age when they're not really ready to deal with it. They're still, their psyches are still developing, and that's when the important time when you want to feel good about yourself. You want to be able to, your parents, your coaches, your teachers, your school resource officers, everybody's pointing out all the amazing things that you can do and all of the skills and talents you have. And that's when you should be building yourself up and preparing yourself for who you're going to be as an adult. And instead, you've got half of the people doing that, and then the other half of the people knocking you down every time you pick your head up. These kids go to college, and they're really not that much more mature than they were when they were in high school, and they're not really sure who they are yet. And this, I think, is keeping a lot of kids from developing and discovering who they are as people. Because they hide behind this.
So what's the developing age for a male, right? For
well, your brain fully develops when you're 25.
Okay.
So, yes, 18, you're an adult, you're a legal adult, but when you're 25 is when your brain stops growing.
Okay.
So that's we're not going to limit everybody to till they're 25 before, and some probably mature a little sooner than others. That's pretty much a general timeline. But I think parents just need to be a little bit more aware, and I think as a society we need to help parents become a little bit more aware of what's going on. I talk to a lot of parents that don't. Like you talked about the pornography. I bet you would mention that to a lot of parents in high school, and they would be shocked. They would think, not my kid.
And that's the phone calls I had with them. Hey, little Susie here, or little, Jimmy here. This is what they got caught looking at in class and whatnot. So. And
somebody else sent it to them, and it wasn't, and just to have those conversations, it shouldn't be you having that conversation. It should be the parents having those conversations with the kids. But you're the one who's doing it. You're the one who's forced to do it because it's showing itself in front of you.
And man, you bring up that age 25, and you think about. So I'm thinking about in my head right now. most of us do on our phones. It'll tell you your screen time, like your average screen time a day.
Yep.
And if let's say you had a student with a screen time of 4 hours a day, that's a lot.
It is
by the
a lot.
time you hit 25 of time that was focused, whether it was good or bad. But if it was, let's say we're in that bad area, we're talking about overwhelming behavior experiences for 4 hours a day for a long time, for a couple of years. Like, that's just crazy to talk about and think about. And, for us, we're a company that we use a lot of this technology to advertise for other companies to help grow and stuff like that. But, like, we are super into trying to educate parents on these things. Like, step in a little bit more.
Yep.
Because you said it yourself, you're seeing a lot of depression and stuff like that. And are you still seeing it as like a stigma to talk about? To talk to somebody?
I don't think so. I think that's one
comfortable?
thing that I think COVID did do is it started to loosen things up a little bit, where people feel a little bit they don't feel like they have to be in the closet about it. I need to go talk to somebody. I'm having a hard time right now. I need to go see a counselor, a therapist. I need to just go kind of sort this stuff out. There's not as much of a stigma as there used to be, I don't think, on it, which is absolutely a good thing. And again, a lot of people look at it, you see therapy, you see that as something, I see a lot of people that think this is something I'm going to have to do once a week for, years. No, you shouldn't have to be in therapy for extended periods of time. It's to get through difficult periods and, several months, maybe once a week, depending on what's going on in your life. But it's not something that has to be something that you're, maybe just when things are getting rough and you're having a hard time and you can't sleep. That's a good first sign is I put my head down on the pillow and I close my eyes and I can't sleep. My brain's still running.
Yeah.
There's things you haven't processed. That's why your brain's still running like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's when it's time to sit down and talk to somebody and just try to sort some things out and figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. What is let's say somebody's they're going through a rough day, like a rough patch, right? What's like a simple coping mechanism you might refer them to if they were not really a client, but they were just like asking for quick advice or something that maybe you have?
A lot of people struggle with stress and anxiety, and they feel depending on what's going on in their life. There's different grounding techniques that work really well. And they're things that you can do on your own. Nobody even around you has to know that you're doing them. They can be done completely in your head. And a good one, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You think of 5 things you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. Wow. And just looking around a room, you can do that. Nobody around you has to know, but what that does is that takes your brain that's running right now off of that, and it focuses it, it grounds it, it focuses it on this. So those stressful emotions start to subside, and it just kind of brings you back down. That's really all a grounding technique is, meditation, that kind of thing. It just brings you down to where your brain is focused on one thing, and all the extraneous stuff that's floating around in your head is no longer doing that.
Yeah.
And it helps bring you down to a nice calm place.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
So
yeah, if you're having a bad day or you need something, that's great. That's I fell in love with meditation like over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I had never gotten into it. Never did it, but my wife was like, "Hey, why don't you try this?" And we had downloaded a fitness app and stuff we use for like her bike and everything. And she's like, "Hey, it has all this meditation stuff on here." And so started getting up early in the morning and doing it before everybody was awake. I'm going down there, locking myself in this room and doing it. And it changed my life.
absolutely.
Like, I had a conversation with my business partner one time, and he was talking about how he knew a lot of people. Like, he would ask them, like, "Hey, when you're driving, you're going on a long drive, do you ever just turn off the radio? Just turn off the noise and just drive with just you?" Most of them go, "No, I can't do that. There's no way." And it's like, well, why? It's probably what's going on in their head. They don't want. They don't want to deal with it, right? Like they're using the noise to kind of suppress it.
Yep.
Right, which I imagine most of the time addiction falls into
Absolutely
that, right? Like we're talking alcoholism, pills, and stuff like that. Would you say that that is like most of the times addiction is to suppress something.
Absolutely. It quiets the noise. It quiets all of the other problems. It, of course, causes another much more difficult problem to deal with in the long run, but it does. It shuts all of that noise off. So all you have is what you're feeling in that moment. And part of addiction is part of addiction recovery is sitting down with a therapist and going over and figuring out what it is that you're trying to bury, what it is that you're trying to hide, what it is that brought you to that point. Because a very happy person doesn't start using drugs to the point where they're shutting out everything else in their life. You're only doing that because you want to shut out what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out what those things are, and then there's still issues that have to be addressed. You still have to work on them. It's not something that just one day you decide, oh, I'm all good now, and everything goes away. As humans, we've just got layers and layers of issues. And a lot of times we don't talk about them. We bury them. We start over. And when they start unraveling like that, it can become very, very overwhelming.
Right.
So that's where the substance use for a lot of people comes in. I come home from work and I don't want to deal with everything that's going on at home. I'd rather sit at a bar.
Right.
Come home, I got a nice buzz. I put my head down on the pillow and I'm asleep within minutes. Start my day the next day.
Yeah.
And I haven't had to deal with any of that, but we all know those problems don't go away.
Right.
So,
Man. So you would say that that's probably most of the cases for addiction. Would you say that that's the higher end? Or do you have, there's always this situation where, like for me, I knew kids in high school that I went to school with when I was in high school, and I saw them openly start trying to different drugs, right? And I know some of them died. Unfortunately, one of the girls that I knew, she was young. She was in a younger class, but it's unfortunate. She ended up getting into so bad, she ended up getting murdered, right? Like
Lord.
It's just the craziness that came from like the introduction of the drugs and stuff like that.
yeah.
Do you have cases where people just openly go, hey, I'm going to try this stuff just to see what it's like, and then they're gone after that? Like, is that? I also knew a kid. I went to school. He was a skateboarder. He was in our skate. I used to skateboard, and now I see him walking around the streets and he's completely baked. His mind is gone. Like I can't even. I'm like, hey, David, hey, do you remember me? No,
Nothing.
just completely gone. Like you see this kid every day. So, and it's like,
It's
but he's just
terrifying.
out homeless, just walking around now. It's like, do you see cases like that where they introduce those drugs into their life and then it's gone after that? Like they're just gone.
Well, there are some people that try it once, twice, and then that's it. They're hooked. And you've got there's the mental addiction, and then there's the physical addiction.
Okay,
There are
so
drugs
that's what
that
I'm
so
trying to
there are
get at,
drugs
yeah.
that you can there are drugs that you can take that you're not going to withdraw from.
Right.
And it's the withdrawal, like with say an opiate. You take an opiate, and you have the whatever feelings are coming from that, and then when you start to come down from it, when it starts to work its way and metabolize out of your system, your body starts to call for it and crave it, and it causes things like nausea and headaches and all sorts of horrible feelings that only go away when you take more of that substance again.
Yeah.
So there are people that have every intention of saying, I'm done, I'm not going to do this anymore, but they get so sick that they say, you know what, I'm just going to do that
Right.
because it'll
It's
make
the
me
only
feel
way.
better.
Yeah.
Right, even if it's just a little bit. And we all know with substances there is no just a little bit. It's always going to lead to something more dangerous.
Right.
But you want to die, but you're not. You can't die from an opiate withdrawal. You just feel horrible.
Yeah.
You can die from alcohol withdrawals.
But so a lot of people don't know that.
That is the only drug you can die withdrawing from, is alcohol.
Wow.
And your body just can start shutting down.
Yeah.
And does it happen often? No, but it can, which is why when you go into a detox center, there are certain drugs. If you are, say you're using cocaine on a regular basis, you try to go into a detox center, they're not going to take you because you don't detox from cocaine.
Okay.
There's no medical need for you to be under medical care while you're detoxing from a drug like cocaine.
Okay. Interesting.
Alcohol, anything like a Xanax, something like that, or an opiate. You need to have they would prefer you be medically monitored while you're detoxing because of all the other parts of your body that are affected by it. So you'll get sick, and they give you meds to help make you feel better. But the detox lasts. I mean, you're in detox for a while, several, 3, 4, 5 days. But after that, you still continue to feel those feelings, which is where people go on drugs like methadone and Suboxone to help them deal with those feelings.
Wow. I worked in the prison for a little while, and I remember the med call, a lot of Suboxone and methadone, still within the prison because the inmates were still getting access to. Unfortunately, stuff still got into the prisons.
Absolutely.
And like their addiction on the street got them in there. I mean, in most cases, there was one. I was sitting at a table, and an inmate came and sat down next to me, and he said, "You want to know what happened?" I'm like, "What?" Yeah, he's like, "I'm gonna tell you what happened in my life." He's like, "I want to share it." I'm like, "Okay." Well, he blacked out on meth. Like he didn't remember anything from. He's like, "I was partying, doing all this stuff," and then I came to, and I was in a jail cell. I said, "Well, what happened in that time?" He's like, "I killed my best friend."
Oh my gosh!
Just blacked out from it. He doesn't know. He has no recollection at all of the actual event happening, but because he was so high, and he's like, "I hadn't slept like 7 days. Was just on a bender, just going." And he's like,
Lord.
"And now I'm here." And he's like, "This is my life now." I was like, "Wow."
How old was he?
Oh, 40s. Yeah, like yeah, he's in his 40s, early 40s.
And he was there for the duration. That's it.
Yeah. So he's, I think he's 25 to life. His most, so 60s. If he gets out on parole, he'll be out in his 60s. But I just was like, man, that's crazy. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, what is the success rate?
Not high enough, unfortunately. And I think there's a reason for that. I do. What my husband Tim and I would like to do is I see there's a piece missing, the way that I see it in addiction treatment. And there's the levels of treatment. There's detox, then there's residential treatment, and then there's what they call partial hospitalization treatment, which is when you're in groups for about 8 hours a day, and then you go home and you sleep and everything, and then you come back. And then there's intensive outpatient, which is 3 hours a day, 3 days a week that you do treatment.
Okay.
Most people leave residential treatment, and that's their first 30 days sober in that treatment. And then you send them home to an environment that they just left 30 days ago. Things aren't that different there necessarily. So you're putting them right back in the same environment they were in before. Now, granted, you've taught them some skills, but 30 days is not a long time to start developing new skills, especially since they probably weren't really feeling too into it the first week or so into treatment.
Yeah.
They're around the same people there. And then the other thing is, even if they've made changes in themselves, their family may not be as happy with them as who they are now. They're still seeing the person that maybe stole from them or things like that. So that, I think, is the piece that's missing. I think there's something that needs to happen after residential treatment that's still something that you live there.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more freedoms. You start working. A lot of family counseling. That's, I think, is a big piece that's missing, is the family couples counseling, things like that, where everybody needs to make some changes. When you've lived with an addict, you're going to have some resentments. You're going to have some angers, and that's natural and that's normal. And it's okay to talk about those things.
Yeah.
These are things that everybody has to come to terms with. It's not necessarily that it's a knockout, ground out fight or anything like that, but you have to acknowledge, I did these things to you and I hurt you.
Yeah.
And then your family can look and say, and I see that you're taking these steps to make things better, and I'm here for you.
Right.
But everybody has to feel heard, or else it causes problems. A lot of the skills that I feel blessed that I learned when I was younger, like how to write a resume, how to do a job interview, how to dress for a job interview, how to go grocery shopping. Little simple things that people don't learn. If you've started using drugs at a relatively young age and you find yourself about 30 years old in a treatment center, these may be skills that you just don't have. Not that you're not capable of, but you don't have them. So we would like to develop, to build a place where we've got people coming in that are teaching basic cooking.
Soft skills,
Absolutely. Things that should be ideally taught at home, but aren't taught in every home.
Yeah.
Because that just increases people's chances of long-term success.
Right.
What happens with relapse is people start to feel, why bother?
Yeah.
Nothing's changing. I did all this work and look, my family's still not talking to me. I'm still living in my car. I still can't get a job.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah. Oh, man.
So
That hits the
that's
heart,
what our goal is. That's what we would like to eventually create.
And listeners, I want to tell you, I've gotten to know Tim and Stephanie over the last couple months, and what they're trying to do, what she's talking about, is bringing in those soft skills into play and giving people a place to extend that success. If you feel like helping out and you want to reach out to help out Stephanie and Tim, or if you're struggling with something, I empower you to reach out to True North and talk to Stephanie. It's obvious that Stephanie, you're looking at things through a different lens, because what you're saying, the success rate, I don't know what it is about our society, but we, for whatever reason, when I say we, not us in particular, we get in a habit of accepting low standards and mediocrity. Like it becomes just this ebb and flow, like a machine of a system, right? And healthcare is, COVID exposed that big time.
Yes.
That everybody got comfortable with doing as low as they can and charging as much as they can, right? And people struggled. People are still hurting, having problems to this day because the system in play obviously isn't successful enough, right? The fact that we have a continuation of our growing prison population at high numbers is an example that what we're doing isn't enough.
Exactly.
Right? So Stephanie and Tim are working hard to come up with a new way to fix that. And so I empower listeners to check that out. Go look at True North. And I want to thank you so much for being on this podcast with us today. I feel like we can honestly probably talk another hour and a half easy, just from what you know and things I've experienced and how to kind of bring it into play to this. I think we honestly could.
Absolutely.
But we're both capped on time
Sure.
because we're busy and you're busy helping people. Again, I want to thank you for being on this podcast.
Thanks for having me very much.
And if you're looking for more episodes, remember, visit localmarana.com. There's plenty more material there to go and look at. You can also go to Live the Dream Media, ltdmedia.net. Also, if you're looking to advertise on our platform, just reach out to us. We'll get you hooked up and get you going. Thank you so much for listening and taking time. Again, remember to reach out to True North. And what's the location? What's the address? 4259. They're new. She actually has two locations, so give her a break. Most businesses, they have, when they're starting out, they have one spot. Like we have one spot. You have two.
I have two, and I don't have a business card on.
You know
me,
what?
so.
I'm gonna take care of you right here because I'm gonna go on your website.
That.
It's hard to manage one place, and then when you have two, it's even harder.
I appreciate you saying that, but I don't. It's 4249 West Ina Road, Suites 105 and 107, and 4237 West Ina Road is Suite 105. That's our IOP, intensive outpatient.
Okay, there we go. So we got it. It's on the record. We'll make sure that those details are in the episode for you. Also, TrueCounselingAZ.com, TrueNorthCounselingAZ.com.
TrueNorthCounselingAZ.com, yes.
I'm gonna say it again, TrueNorthCounselingAZ.com. If you want to go and check out the website, schedule a session with Stephanie, get to know more about Stephanie, see how she can help you do that. Thanks again.
Thank you.